Alrighty, we are here today again with Matthew Grace. Matt, I think we left off. You had just come back from your first deployment in Afghanistan, and you had been assigned to a new unit. Can you give us an idea of when that was again, and remind us what unit that was?
I got to my new unit. I left my old one end of September, beginning of October in 2010. I moved to Fort Carson, Colorado, where I was assigned to the 3rd Squadron, 61st Cavalry Regiment, 4th Brigade, 4th Infantry Division.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of training were you doing? Were you gearing up to go to Afghanistan again? Give us an idea of what you were doing.
Well, when I got to this unit, they had just similarly gotten back from a deployment in Afghanistan. I believe they got back roughly like a month or so, before my unit got back, which was in July, so probably June or something. I don't know exactly when they got back, but pretty much the same time as we did. So they were in the kind of the same phase where no one really was motivated to do kind of any work and everything like that. There's no real, everyone, you're in the Army, you know you're going to deploy again, but when you get back, you know it's not going to be for a while. And you still haven't gotten all your connexes back, or in some cases vehicles if you send them over, or whatever it may be. You kind of, for probably anytime I have to get back from deployment, you kind of into some kind of chill period for a couple months and everything like that. I believe last time we talked about how pretty much anyone staff sergeant E6 and above in my platoon, they are on some kind of physical profile where they couldn't do PT with us, or I don't know, I'm sure probably some of them just didn't want to do PT. So they kind of left it to the NCOs in the unit, to the E5 sergeants, to do it. But pretty much it's all these E5 sergeants who are just going back from deployment, who have themselves recently promoted to sergeant from E4, and then you have a bunch of other E4s who were either with these guys when they were in Afghanistan, or incoming guys like me who just got back from Afghanistan themselves. Everyone, pretty much when you're in process, you're usually in process with a bunch of other replacement kind of guys and everything like that. One of the guys that went to the same platoon with me was in my previous platoon from my first unit, so we're all good buddies, and then everyone else, they're from similar circumstances. So you have guys who are leading you who are not that more experienced than you. Though I'm not taking anything away from them. They are more experienced than you, but at the same time there is. It's not like you're a new private. There's a level of respect there and everything like that. So we get there. They don't really want to do PT. We don't want to do PT. Their leaders tell us to go do PT, and we just kind of blow that off and everything like that. And
how are you accepted in this new unit? Was there any sense of, oh, he's a new guy, we don't want to talk to him? Or were you given a certain level of respect because you had been deployed already?
Yeah, pretty much, if you're a specialist in the Army, you have a combat patch on, a CIB on. People, they're not. Most leaders aren't gonna mess with you too much or anything like that. They're gonna come down on you if you're not doing the right thing or anything like that. But you're beyond the kind of hazing kind of phase, right? No one's gonna come up to you and just tell you to do push-ups for no reason or anything like that. They recognize that. Basically, we were in this chill period for the probably first few months and everything until you slowly start moving out of it. Training starts coming down, and then some days you can't just blow off every day. You have vehicles in the motor pool that you still have to take care of. There's still inventories and layouts to do, and slowly you start getting field problems, maybe just for a mortar shoot for a couple of days just to certify and everything like that. When you're a mortar, you're required to shoot so many rounds a year or something like that, or do one mortar certification a year or something like that, or 6 months. Same thing with like marksmanship. Every unit, I mean, every soldier has to go to the range at least once a year. I mean, but I mean, us being combat arms, that's you're expected a little bit more than just once a year, since I mean your weapon is your job. So I mean, you start coming down with more ranges and everything, kind of just basic things. Kind of, I mean, at first it's just like, all right, we're going to the range. Zero, just to recertify your weapon since you've gotten back from deployment and everything like that. And but then I mean, towards like January, when I think we started coming back up on our first mortar certification, we're outside. We're pulling our mortars out of the arms room. And signing them up and running drills and everything like that, and we did that. So pretty much by January, we were starting to get back into things. And
Of 2011.
Yeah,
okay.
January 2011. We were kind of, I remember getting back to things because I mean, mainly remember because it was so fucking cold. like that first winter in Colorado. I mean, we had a field problem where like it was like one day. I think it was probably 55 degrees or something like that. Not too bad. I mean, enough that we were able to like take off our tops when we were in the field and just have our tank t-shirts on. Within like 36 hours, the temperature drops down to like -30 and everything. Yeah, so needless to say, no one could really that kind of shut down that field problem because I mean, when it's that cold, unless you're like out in Alaska or you're kind of training for that, it's like we're like, all right, well you can't have people outside; they're gonna get hypothermia and have toes start falling off, so that got canceled. But then yeah, pretty much that entire January was really cold. But I mean, more or less that continued for a few months and everything like that. After January, just kind of continuing to work, kind of ease our way back into things, more and more field problems and everything like that. And still, it's still like a group of, you have a bunch of specialists like myself, my like buddy from my old unit, and a bunch of other guys, and then you have NCOs, and there's still kind of this kind of level of respect. It wasn't until I think about May, June-ish period, May I want to say, we got like an actual fresh batch of privates straight from basic training and everything like that. And anytime that happens, you kind of get a little excited because I mean, especially me for specialists, like this is your first group of soldiers to help train up, and you kind of have authority over and everything like that, and you can do some of the hazing yourself.
Right. But I'll pull it back a little bit, kind of in this period where you come back and things aren't as strict, I guess, as they once were, where you're kind of in that period of limbo. Did you have time to go out and kind of explore the local area? Did you spend more time with your family? Describe that. What you did outside of your military duties during that time.
I was a single soldier, so I didn't have any family. But I mean, I don't get like my family's the same way. I mean, they don't understand that if you're not out in the field or you don't have CQ or staff duty where you have to man a phone for 24 hours or you have some weird detail that comes down and say, hey, you have to go guard this ammo supply or these vehicles for a day or something like that. I mean, on the average day, you go from 6:30 to 4 or 5 at night, and then you get off and you're done. I mean, it's a not 6:30 to 5 job with some rather lengthy breaks in between PT and during lunch and everything like that. But I mean, it's kind of like a normal job in that aspect, where you get it. I mean, in my case, I lived in the barracks, but I mean, you go to the barracks, but then you have I have my truck, whatever. I can drive off post all I want. I can go to bars and everything like that. I mean, I wasn't that big into the bar scene, but I did go out with my platoon and everything like that. And I mean, my platoon drank a lot, which is pretty typical for any kind of infantry unit. But yeah, they drank a lot. And we're still in that kind of on the same kind of boat where there's still that kind of no one's really fucking with each other and everything like that, and that kind of respect. So I mean, it didn't matter if it was like a work night or not. I mean, I mean, my guys in my unit, I mean, they would always, I mean, every single night they'd be out of the bar in the barracks drinking and everything. People would show up next morning, PT still drunk or hungover, formation reeking of booze and stuff like that. And that's kind of just the way of, the way of combat arms and everything like that. And I mean, especially when you're fresh off a deployment, there's excessive drinking and everything like that. I mean, I remember like one night, I was drunk where my buddy had to take me home. Another guy in my platoon got a DUI. Another couple of my buddies, they got lost trying to find their car, and eventually the cops pulled over and started talking to me. Well, my buddies threw up on the cops' shoes and everything like that, and so I mean, yeah, pretty standard stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, that pretty much. I mean, when you're outside of work, you're free to do whatever you want.
So when you get these new batch of privates in, what sort of a role did you play in kind of getting them up to shape within your unit?
Well, I mean, PT, of course, I mean, that's where it all starts and everything like that, especially in Colorado when you are going to that kind of elevation. No matter where you are, you're sucking. I mean, like, the best guys in PT will show up, and usually, like, one of the first things that we would do is we'd take them on, like, what they call, like, the roller coaster, where kind of like right in the back of our units on Fort Carson. There's all these hills, these rolling hills and everything like that, where people would like go out and run PT and everything like that. Like, I think a nickname for it was like the roller coaster, or whatever. And like anytime like you first get people in, take them on a ruck march back there and everything like that, or just any kind of thing. And you're running up and down these hills, your body's not acclimated to it, you can't breathe. Pretty much everyone, I mean, their first time, like, pukes or something like that. So, I mean, you kind of start them off there. And then, I mean, the fresh privates, whatever, they don't, basic training doesn't really teach you very much. I mean, it teaches you, like, it familiarizes yourself with it. I mean, they teach you stuff, but, I mean, you're not sure of it, and you don't remember certain parts. I mean, they teach you how to take apart like a 240 Bravo machine gun, a saw, and everything in basic training. But for most privates, I mean, you get to your unit, you don't remember that stuff and everything like that. So you have to retrain them up on all that stuff. Being mortars, you only get like a week's worth of training on the mortar in basic, and that's like what it is, just very basic and very familiar and everything like that. You don't know anything. Just working the actual sights and the gun. Different mortars have a different little finesse to them and everything like that. Between the 120, 81, and the 60 millimeter mortars. I mean, just a different feel of them. Pretty much when you're in basic, all you do is just kind of just learn the very minimum of getting your gun up on the poles and everything like that, the aiming poles for the mortar. But I mean, there's so much more to being a mortar than that. Knowing each one of the jobs and everything like that, knowing how to declinate and all kinds of things. I'm not even sure if I ever was told declination's hard. I'm not entirely sure if I could still do that or if I ever did. But yeah, I mean, then there's just all kinds of things. Map reading, no one knows how to read a map when they get out. They don't remember exactly how to do any kind of first aid. Pretty much everything. You just had to teach them everything. And you had to hammer into them. It's all the Army skills are what they call they're perishable skills, where if you don't use them, you lose them. So, I mean, there's a constant kind of re-drilling. And even once you teach them, you have to drill on that. And once again, it's kind of, you're also teaching them a level of a discipline and everything like that. Whereas, I mean, you first get into the Army and there's so much, you still have that individual mentality, and you're still not used to the hierarchy and, well, let's just face it, a lot of the bullshit and illogical kind of decisions that you see. Whereas, like when you're a brand new private, and when these new privates come in, you get a job, and it's like, why do we have to do this? I was like, well, we have to. That's why. What was it? It was like every Monday, you have to go down to the motor pool, and you have to do maintenance on your vehicle and check it. Regardless if you even started that vehicle in the past week, you still have to do it. So it's like they'll come down, why do we have to do this? Or why do we have to do this layout for the third time this week, whatever. I mean, and a lot of the time it's, well, you don't have to worry about it. That is for someone else higher up who has a bigger picture of the circumstances, who it makes sense to. Where you're at, I mean, yeah, it seems like stupid and everything like that, but I'll say half the time there's a reason. Other half the time it's just busy work, or someone's just trying to cover their ass, or they don't know what the hell's going on. They're just telling you to do something stupid. But so it's you're trying to get them to into the right mindset of just do your job, recognize your role, and go on, move out. I mean, you're not telling them to. I mean, you're not making them into robots where you're telling them not to think, but you're getting them used to that, not to question every single little order. You have to have a little bit of trust, and you might not understand your circumstances, but I mean, if you're out there in combat or whatever, you can't be questioning, well, why are we moving like this? Why are we flanking around the enemy like that? It's because I fucking told you to. It's kind of like that.
Okay. So at what point did you find out that you were going to be deployed again?
God, I don't remember exactly when we figured that one out, but I mean, it was always there. I mean, we knew it. I don't know exactly when word came down that you're going to Afghanistan in 2012, but I mean, it comes down. I'm probably going to say around sometime, probably midsummer in 2011. We had just moved into this new area. We moved, our entire brigade moved to this other part of the post and everything, and pretty sure that's when we kind of figured it out. Yeah, because pretty much at that point in time, we knew where we were going, because in November, I believe, we went to JRTC down in Fort Polk. So, yeah, we had to get some kind of a heads up to that, yeah.
So, were you doing any type of training to get yourself ready again, to refresh?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're always training. I mean, maybe not every single day. Sometimes you mean you're out in motor pool doing a layout all day, but like I said, depending on what your leaders decide, depending on how much free time you have, one day you'll do a class on map reading. Another day you'll draw your mortars out of the arms room, and you'll set them up in back of your troop, and you'll run out some poles and do some drills. You're going to the ranges and stuff again. Then you have field problems mixed in for where you go out to the field for a week, and you'll might do traditional 11 Bravo infantry tactics, like convoy tactics, or you might just be out there doing more mortar stuff, which is usually the case. But I mean, usually we'd go out, we'd spend part of the day doing mortar stuff, then we'll do another part of the day where we'll go out and do like battle drills and like squad movement or platoon movement, techniques and everything like that. So I mean, usually I guess I'll say one of the benefits of being a motorman is, since you're kind of like attached to whatever unit you are on, you're never part of the majority. A lot of the times people kind of let you go off and do your own thing, and since none of your leaders above your platoon level are mortarmen, they usually don't take too much of interest to come down and look too closely at you. They'll stop by like one time during the entire field problem, and besides that, the rest of the time it's pretty much up to your leader's discretion how exactly you're going to be training and everything like that.
What was the mindset knowing that you were going to go back to Afghanistan? You'd already been there once. What were you thinking? How did you feel about the fact that you had to go back?
I was excited and everything. I wanted to go. I enjoyed my first deployment or whatever. I mean, this time I had a fresh group of privates that was taking underneath my wing and everything like that. So that was fun. I was looking forward to that, and I don't know. I hadn't experienced anything too horrific or anything like that my first deployment, so I still wanted to go over there and do my job, and kill some Taliban or whatever. And yeah, pretty much it's that.
Okay. So when did you leave?
Well, I guess I personally left in April of 2012, whereas late April, whereas the rest of my unit, they left in like the beginning of March. Before we deployed or whatever, after JRTC and all that stuff, we each kind of like platoon or unit was asked to give up like a guy to go to like this dog handling course for a couple months beforehand, where we would work with like bomb sniffing dogs, and they would train us up on that, and then they would send us out, and we have a dog, and we were supposed to have a dog to go like for bombs when our platoons would go out. So I went through that. We spent some time in Indiana, then Arizona, and this was like the it was like the Ranger School of like bomb sniffing dog course. Not the fact that it was like some kind of like real physical challenge or anything like that. It was just the fact that like the attrition rate was like 50% or whatever, and I eventually like ended up like flunking out or whatever, just because you have to have a certain you have to be able to read your dog and everything like that, and I just wasn't able to get my dog to respond to me, and I guess I didn't read him very well, but nevertheless, so I didn't make it through that, but then they sent me back to a unit and everything like that, and they'd all deployed, so now I was just kind of waiting for I'm sitting there with a bunch of kind of like broken guys doing rear advon stuff, rear administration stuff, who couldn't deploy, and other guys who were kind of either just got into the unit or for some reason they couldn't deploy when everyone else left, and were kind of just sitting there waiting for a flight. So we sat around for 2-3 weeks or everything. Then we shipped out to Afghanistan once again. Went the same route pretty much. I think we ended up stopping in Manus for a few days. Then instead of flying into Kandahar, we flew into Bagram, and we once again we kind of just got disseminated out to our different kind of units once we were there, and we kind of try to get our flights to our respective FOBs where all of our guys were out at that time and everything like that. This time around we were in my unit was in Nangarhar province, which is further north. My platoon was actually stationed at a FOB called Finley Shields, which is kind of right in the heart of Jalalabad, which is the capital of that province. And so that was kind of a nice change of pace from Kandahar, where you were out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the fucking desert. And Jalalabad has a lot more green. It's still a rather arid environment, but still, we're in a city. There's actually Also like, and then like the area outside the city, it's still kind of built up with villages, and they have irrigation going and everything like that, so that you still had a little bit more. He actually had some kind of farmland to look at occasionally, but it was still mostly desert once you get farther out and everything like that. My platoon this time around, instead of doing the whole mortar thing, what my unit did was they took the mortar platoon, which was originally assigned to the headquarters troop in our squadron, and we probably had 20 some odd guys in it. And then once right before deployment, not right before, but certain time before deployment, probably around JRTC, they split the mortar platoon up, and certain four or five guys went to Alpha Troop, Bravo Troop, Charlie Troop, and then my section, or whatever, my group, which was probably about 12, 13 guys, something like that, we stayed in headquarters, and we were tasked as the personal security detachment for our squadron commander when we were in Afghanistan. So when we were actually in JRTC, we weren't actually doing the training of an actual warman. We were doing like convoy tactics and everything like that, and kind of training to escort this guy around. So that's what we did when we got to Afghanistan.
Was that similar to your first mission and your first deployment?
No.
That you had done?
No, my first deployment was, we were just supposed to take some A&A Afghan Army guys to some polling stations or something like that. We were tasked with watching after our squadron commander or whatever. Which in that case, first deployment, that first mission was just these guys are tagging along with us. We're driving to these places. They get off. Whereas my platoon in this particular mission, we had our job was specifically to ensure the safety of our battalion commander and get him to wherever he was going and everything like that. So typically, we had a select few places that we went. He's, as the battalion commander or squadron commander, he's not going out on patrols and everything like that, but we're escorting him pretty much every day to whatever fob that Alpha Troop's on, or fob that Charlie Troop's on, and Bravo Troop's on, and everything like that. And then there was just the main fob in the area, which was literally right across the row where we would occasionally go and everything like that, and even just across the street. Of course, you can't go outside the gate without an escort, so we had to get in our vehicles and drive over there. But
so were you driving these vehicles? What was your specific role in this?
I was a gunner on gosh, I forgot the system, but pretty much we had 4 vehicles. They were MATVs, which are know where the MRAP is. They're smaller. They're 4-seaters and everything. And then you have the gunner standing up top.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in the lead vehicle, but instead of having just standing up top of the system, we had one of the automated turret systems. Whatever, I forgot the acronym. It's whatever. Where I would be sitting in the seat behind the driver, and I have a video screen right here, and I have pretty much just a joystick. I just work the gun from where I'm there. Really cool system and everything like that. That was my job, and then occasionally, I don't know, for a lot of times we'd have one guy who couldn't do such and such. I could not go on the mission for some reason. In which case, I might another guy might take my spot, and I would rotate out into another gunner's position where I would be actually standing up top and everything like that on a different vehicle. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I'll say about a third of the time that I went out, I had to switch out with someone else's spot and everything. And usually I'd go into I'd actually be in the vehicle with our squadron commander standing up top. I was kind of a douche. Like he was the kind of guy who really got off on the whole army thing, like in a bad way, like way too gung ho and everything, and not in a good sense. He's not like he wasn't one. He was kind of pudgy and everything like that. So he's not like some kind of super ranger guy or anything like that. Though he did his ranger tab, which is another funny story. But he's the kind of guy that he would smoke cigars inside like the MATV when they're rolling around, and he's like, he actually named his son Patton and everything like that. So yeah, he's kind of like he's striving to be the next Douglas MacArthur and everything like that.
Okay.
But and we would escort him around. We would escort him to, in addition to like the various FOBs out there, we would escort him also to the governor's palace and everything in the middle of the city and everything. And he would usually go there once a week, and he would talk to the Afghan governor there about I don't know what. But
did you have any contact with the enemy in any of these missions that you were on?
No, I didn't. I mean, one thing that makes I kind of puts in perspective of how these kind of got a certain how do I say this? You kind of got a sense of the Taliban's actual ability to kind of perceive things in the fact that we didn't get attacked. This is 2012. The Afghan army is more, they're running patrols out. They're all over the province and everything. You go out, you see them everywhere and everything like that. And the Taliban knows that our time is kind of winding down. And when we would go out, we would roll through an area. We'd be like, then we get to like the FOB, then we'd like hear like that, like 10 minutes after we passed through that area, the Afghan army came through and they hit an IED or something like that. Or it was either like right before or right after. And we roll through these areas every single day. And so you kind of got the sense that they knew that they probably didn't. I don't think they wanted to provoke us too much to get more involved than we already were. I don't think we were that active. Even with the patrols and everything at that point in time. And then also I think it might be kind of like an economic kind of thing. Whereas we're driving these giant MATVs, whereas the Afghan army is driving Toyota Hiluxes. Takes a much bigger bomb to blow us up.
Right. And
even if they start firing at us, we're in giant armored vehicles. It would be very hard to actually kill one of us, and none of the Afghans can shoot. Both.
So do you think they purposely avoided your convoys because they knew they couldn't do much to you?
Yeah, I do. Because there's many times where, like I said, the Afghan army got hit right after we came through an area. So that would have meant that they would have had to have watched us go through. And there was times where we had to stop and wait at a certain area. So if they really did want to hit us, they could. And since we weren't. There's not a lot. There's one main road. There's not a lot of alternate routes you can take or anything like that. So, and we're going to like 4 different places. So, and we're rolling out every single day. So they know we're rolling through there every day. If they wanted to hit us, they could have hit us. I don't know if that was also the fact that they probably knew that also it was our squadron commander up there. So I don't know. Maybe an idea that you take out this guy, a whole shitstorm will come down on you or not. But again, like a province up in Kunar, our brigade sergeant major or whatever, they were out doing some key leader engagement, and a suicide bomber took him out and everything like that. So it's not like the Taliban's everywhere kind of like laying off, and it all depends on the area and everything like that. Kunar's always been kind of shitstorm. in certain areas of Kandahar and like I said, Arghandab. It's always been kind of a bad place. But like where we were at, nothing much. Like a couple weeks before I arrived, they attacked like our fob and everything like that. They blew a big old hole in the wall of our fob, and a couple Taliban guys kind of came storming in, and there was a big firefight, and our guys ended up just completely waxing those guys and everything like that, and but they threw grenades and they ended up burning down a couple of barracks, and there were like holes through like other barracks like walls and everything like that. On my NCOs, he was kind of pretty much like they blew a hole in the water here. Then there's these line of shoes or whatever they say them, where our guys are staying. One of my NCOs, he was on the first floor, and like his room's like on the very end. And there's like he wasn't there at the time, I don't think, or I mean, well, he wasn't in his room at the time, but I mean, there's a bunch. You come back to his room and there's bullet holes all through his place, and but that our guys took him out. A few guys got wounded, but no one seriously or anything like that. Just like flesh wounds and like ankles or something like that. And guys got Purple Hearts, but these like the Taliban guys, they got destroyed real quick and everything like that. I wasn't there for any of that. But besides that, nothing much happened. One time we were on patrol, one time we were escorting a guy. Another one of our platoons was out, and they got into a little firefight with like the Taliban, and we were like right by their area, and we just stepped on the gas, and literally as soon as we pulled up, like the firing like stopped and everything like that. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know if they saw us pulling up or what, or maybe they were more likely to attack this other platoon because they recognized that my platoon was the one with the Squadron Commander or not. Or, I mean, for all I know, I mean, it could have been just completely just dumb luck. I mean, you don't know. I can't really sit down and talk to the Taliban and everything like that. I mean, our interpreter never told us, and that wasn't as far as we know, our interpreter wasn't Taliban, and he couldn't tell us that. So.
Now, you had talked before when I asked you how you felt about going back to Afghanistan that you were, you wanted to go, and you wanted to essentially you said something on the grounds of you wanted to get contact with the enemy, or you were in a way looking forward to it. Was there any frustration that you weren't getting contact with the enemy? Did you want that in a way, or were you happy that you were?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted the firefight and everything, do all the cool guy shit, whatever that you see in the movies. But I mean, same time, I mean, you go out on patrol every single day or whatever, and you just it gets monotonous and everything. Whereas like you're just done with it at all. You're like, oh, this is just bullshit and everything like that. And you'd rather. I mean, my first deployment, anytime there was they ever needed any mortar to go out on like some kind of mission outside the wire, I wanted to go and everything. But by the second deployment, I'm like, I don't want to go out today and everything. I want to stay in my room and watch like movies and everything like that. I don't want to get my gear on in 110, 120 degree weather, so I can drive down the same road I've driven down for the past 3 months and everything like that. So I mean, it was definitely not, and my desire for combat was definitely dulled in my second time around and everything like that. So
just to kind of serve your time and go home at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I mean the whole time. I mean, it was a continued desire, but it was not like. But it was also this kind of counter desire that I don't want to go out and do this bullshit right now. Okay. I've escorted our commander to Torcom 30 fucking times. It's gonna be the same thing. Though it's at the same time, certain FOBs do have certain benefits, whereas like Torcom and what's the other one? don't remember the other couple fobs, but there was Fob Torcum, which was was right on the border of Pakistan where the actual border crossing is. So, and it was kind of cool, where it was kind of like all these mountains up around. You could actually kind of run up a couple of them and like see into Pakistan, I think. They had really good food, so that was always a benefit if you went there. And then there was Fob Shinwar, which was a shithole. They didn't have any good food. And then there was another troop where our Bravo troop was at, and they had good food. So we'd go there, and a lot of time, like we'd steal a bunch of like sodas and Gatorades and everything from their mess facility and everything like that, and keep them for our platoon. We couldn't do that at our fob. So, I mean, there were some benefits to that, but yeah.
Now, did you have any sort of experience, or not contact, but relationship, or did you come across any members of the Afghan army?
Yeah. Like I said, being 2012, and there's this increasing emphasis of getting the Afghans involved and everything. When we first got there, anytime our commander wanted to go out, which was damn near every day, we had to there was our facility, and then there was a compound that was attached to it or whatever. Or yeah, when I say compound, it was another kind of bricked, walled-in area and everything like that. But I mean, there was a gate in between, and they couldn't cross over into our area and everything like that. We had to go over there. And I mean, and actually, just to go over there, we needed to escort our commander over there, just because I mean, there was still this. There was this. We didn't trust the Afghanis and everything like that at this time. There was a lot of like Afghan army, Afghan police kind of attacks on soldiers. So we couldn't just allow him to just walk over there. So anytime he had to go over there to meet with one of our guys had to come or something like that. But then anytime we rolled out, we had to go over there and tell them, hey, we want some of your guys to go escort us. And we go there and tell them, and then we had to wait for them to show up. They'd be usually late or something like that, and eventually it just got to be too much of a hassle, so we just said fuck it. One time we did have some of these guys come over. I believe they were a group of Afghan police and Afghan army, and we spent the day trying to give them some training, like marksmanship training, working with weapons and everything like that. We told them how to properly hold and get down behind your weapon and everything, have a sturdy shooting position. Then we took them out to this little kind of 25-meter kind of range we had built up on our fob, and we set up some targets and we had them shoot at it, and they were pretty much the worst fucking marksmen I have ever seen in my life. I didn't expect them to be getting bullseyes or anything one after another, but I assume when you have a target that is 3.5 feet by 2.5 feet, whatever, wide, only 25 meters away, and you have an AK-47, you should be able to hit the paper at least. I mean, you don't even have to aim down your sights for that. I mean, you can just point and shoot. I could give a gun to my kid's sister or something like that. She could do that. But these guys, I mean, it's remarkable how they were completely incompetent at this, and they couldn't hit the paper. I mean, they didn't know how to just aim down their sights at all. I don't know. It was shocking.
Were they using any sort of American weaponry?
Yeah, there were. I believe the Afghan police, they tend to have the whole kind of leftover kind of AK-47s, whereas the actual Afghan army, they have M16s that they got from us somehow. So yeah, they had two different weapons mainly. Yeah, but they were pretty fucking confident. But pretty much after the first few months, we just stopped worrying about them.
Talking to some other veterans, and a lot of them had talked about how marijuana usage was common, at least in their experience with the Afghan soldiers. A lot of them would get high while they were on duty. Did you see anything like that?
No, just I mean, like I said, pretty much our interaction with them was go grab them, tell them to we're going out on a trip to escort our commander somewhere. Tell them they show up, whatever. Our commander shows up, we get in the vehicles and we roll out. So I mean, no, we didn't. I didn't actually see any of them getting high and everything. But I mean, I've heard stories from other guys where it's like in first my first deployment, our unit ran some kind of training program for the Afghan army on our fob, and I remember like hearing one of the Afghan guys in the training program, like I don't know if he failed out or I don't remember exactly what was going on, but he was going through like withdrawals during the training program, and they needed to like administer some medical treatment or something like that. I don't know. And then you hear other things like that. The Afghan security forces in the towers like had smoked weed or something like that, but yeah, I didn't see it.
So you were talking earlier that it was known that, especially like within you guys knew, and the Taliban, you said, had a sense of that the Americans were in the process of pulling out. Give control to the Afghan people. How do you feel that was going? Did you feel like that was going well or not?
From my perspective, it seemed fine. I mean, I'll say, yeah, these guys, the Afghan army and everything like that, they were incompetent, and I mean, they showed up late. They couldn't shoot and everything like that. But at the same time, I think they do have some NCOs and guys who have been in. Occasionally, you'll see a guy who actually kind of looks squared away and everything like that. Who, I mean, they like I said earlier, when you go out, they are doing patrols and everything like that. And when you see them, I mean, you're bound to pick up some things, and you can only hit so many bombs before you start realizing we need to start looking for bombs and how to look for them. So I mean, these guys did know things. There's times where I remember like one time just like going on. I mean, we would like drive up and we had to stop because there have Afghan army guys in the road where they had just found an IED and they're waiting for explosive ordnance disposal (EOD) to show up and everything like that. So I mean, they are able to find these bombs. They have some competence to them. So I mean, there's that, and there wasn't any kind of like too many attacks in the whole Nangarhar region. So in that area, it did seem pretty squared away. And not every Afghan is a pot smoking loser or whatever, I guess. But like our interpreter, he was actually from Islamabad and everything like that. I mean, he would at the end of the day, he would go home to his family and stuff like that. And he was like same age as me at the time and everything like that. And I mean, he was had a head on his shoulders. He was a smart guy and everything like that, and pretty cool. And he wasn't any kind of radicalized or anything like that. He seemed like he had some pretty liberal, enlightened views. Though I mean, there was one funny time where one of the guys in my truck, another one of the privates that came in, but by this time, now that we're deployed, he's competent, actually very competent. He was one of the more successful soldiers. But I mean, he was one of the guys who just always liked to talk shit and get under people's skin. And I guess it was kind of I guess you could take it as a compliment in the fact that he felt comfortable enough to mess with our interpreter and everything like that. And kind of big debate about at one point in time over like the Quran and everything, which is normally a big no. You don't bring up religion around the Afghans, okay? And but I mean, the guy's pretty cool, and it was funny, just because for the fact that at one point in time he's saying, no, it's been proven, all this stuff in the Quran, like apparently I'm not a theological expert by any means, but apparently according to his claims, at some point in time, like Muhammad or Allah or whatever, like split the moon in two and then like put it back together, and he said that NASA went up and actually verified that, and my buddy is just like making fun of this, and I had to just chime in. I'm like, no, that is not true. Whatever. We are NASA. NASA is our program. They did not find any of this. We would have heard about this, but yeah. But I mean, besides that, I mean, he was a really good guy and competent. So I mean, not all Afghans are radical kind of extremists or incompetent drug addicts. So, and I mean, overall, like I said, there wasn't too much action going on in the region, and I mean, you did see them out there, and some of them hit IEDs, but I mean, they also found quite a bit. So, I mean, and I doubt the Taliban is any more competent than the Afghan army.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your main job was to run these convoys. Were you doing anything else during this deployment?
No, not really. I mean, that was our main task. It's just to escort our commander around. And like I said, he was a rather gung-ho guy, and he wanted to actually get into contact more than anyone else, I think. It's like, I remember one time, like, the Taliban had detonated a huge bomb in the road, wherever. There was like a massive crater, like, I mean, looking at this room, it was probably about the width of this room or something like that. So, I mean, looking at the room, I don't know, 10 feet wide or something like that.
Wow.
Like, so pretty big crater, and it was like, and it was in the middle of the actual paved street on the way to one of our FOBs. So as soon as they detonated that, we all of a sudden, like for the next, like, 2 weeks, we went to that FOB every single day and everything like that, and, like, and remember, like the day after it was happened, we went there, and we went to, it was, like, FOB Shinwar. We were there, and we were going to roll back at the end of the night, and, like, as soon as we pulled out of the gate, like, our commander comes over the radio, yeah, I want to, let's go and stop by that crater and actually stop and get out so I can take some pictures of that. And as soon as that came over the radio, everyone in my truck just goes, you idiot! Because I mean, just come out and say it. We know you want to stop and try and draw fire or something like that. I mean, it's just stop. You want to stop and buy like an IED site and to take pictures. I mean, come on, man. Just I want to get into contact too, but don't do it in a way that you're actually putting us in harm's, like, actually willingly exposing us to contact. If it happens, it happens. But I mean, yeah, that guy was kind of, no one really liked him.
Wow. Now, did you have a general sense, what was your opinion on the general status of the war in Afghanistan at this time? That was kind of a general question, but did you have a sense of how things were going in a broader sense when you were there?
I don't know. I mean, I'd say my first deployment, and maybe it was just for the fact that more people got actually killed out of our brigade than in the second time around, and I think we were also a little more consolidated. Where the second time around, we had, like, my first deployment, we had, like, most of our brigades were within Kandahar province, whereas this time around, like, I mean, most of our battalions within our brigade were in Kandahar province. Second time around, like, it was only like 361 in Nangarhar, and I think another battalion was up in Kunar, and I don't even know where everyone else was at. So I mean, I think it was a little bit harder to get a sense of how things were. We're getting attacks, so but I mean, you hear some attacks, and then also people. It kind of seemed like we weren't going out on patrols as much and everything like that. So it's really hard to say, and I don't know. I mean, Afghanistan is never gonna be like a westernized nation or anything like that. But I mean, at the same time, when we would go out to like the governor's palace, I mean, you'd see like schoolgirls out, or whatever, depending on the time of the year. That kind of stopped during the summer. But I mean, you do actually see schoolgirls out going to school. So I mean, that's one positive sign. I mean, that the Taliban isn't too influenced or anything like that, and there's some kind of success there. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, I guess you could kind of get a sense when you roll down the road. You can get the sense that some areas are more friendly to the Afghan government, the U.S., than others. Sometimes you go around the road, kids and people would wave at you, you wave back and everything. Other times, like you roll through an area and people are just mean mugging you, and those fucking little kids are throwing rocks at you and everything like that. So I mean, you kind of get the sense that like when the kids, I mean, you can judge by the kids. Kids are nice to you. Area is probably pretty good. You roll through an area where like kids are throwing rocks at you or something like that, or you probably get a sense that their daddies don't like you too much. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Nangarhar at the time seemed pretty well put together in the sense that, as well as an Afghan province could be put together and everything like that.
Okay. Now, is there anything else in your second deployment that sticks out to you that maybe we didn't cover? I know you mentioned that, I think it was Combat Outpost Keating, the Outpost book that was written.
Yeah.
You had some men in your unit that were involved in that, or you were somehow.
But yeah, my
close to that?
well, just for the fact that like going back to when I first got to the unit.
Okay.
Like I said, these guys had just gotten back from Afghanistan. Well, they had just gotten back from Keating and the rest of the area up in the Kungar, Nuristan area. It was our Bravo troop who was up at Keating. My platoon sergeant at the time, I believe, I don't know if he got wounded there or not, but I mean, at one point in time, at one point in time he got wounded or whatever. I don't know if it was disappointing or not, but he was at Keating when it all went down. They lost one of their mortars there. Another one of my guys, he was at Keating when it went down. He earned a Silver Star. Like you said, the book The Outpost, he a few times got an excuse for the day to go interview with the actual guy who was writing the book. So there was these guys, when we first got there. I mean, there's guys that were at Keating who were now in my platoon, who were with the guys who got Medal of Honor, and guys who also died and everything like that. And then the rest of the guys, even if they weren't at Keating, they got they experienced pretty much contact on a constant basis and everything like that. They fired a shit ton of mortars. My first sergeant when I got there, and my roommate when I first got there, they had both been wounded when they were during that previous deployment. They weren't at Keating and everything. And actually, the first sergeant and my roommate got wounded at the same time, and they were together. So, so I mean, they had a pretty tough deployment, everything like that, and yeah, it's kind of interesting that these guys were at Keating and everything like that. And,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point, we are going to change tapes. Alrighty, so when was your tour over? You said you got there in late April. When did you finally end up leaving?
At the end of November. I don't know if we made it to December or not. If it did, it would have been for the first couple of days of December. I know we did miss Thanksgiving. So, yeah, it was definitely at the end of November that we finally left out of there.
Okay. Now, was there any type of award ceremony? You had been on quite a few combat missions. What was that whole process? Was there any type of award?
Yeah, but traditionally, the way it's become, which is kind of messed up, is everyone kind of gets an end of tour award, whereas your platoon commander writes up a recommendation, they submit it, and pretty much everyone, when you get towards the end, pretty much like higher up, they're coming down, hey, we need your end of tour awards and everything like that. They submit them. Typically, specialists like myself and privates below, and even typically E6 and below, they get Army Commendation medals, unless you actually like saw combat and you got or you did something like valorous, whatever. In which case, you might get an ARCOM with a V device, V for valor, or a Bronze Star with a V device, or just a Bronze Star. And of course, if you do something more extraordinary, you get something more. But just standard procedure, yeah, ARCOM. Though my first deployment, I got fucked out of that because they came out with there were some weird like guidelines my first unit had about like you, I don't know, it was weird. It's like all the scouts got like awards, but all of our guys got kind of fucked over. Whereas my PCS award, that's another thing. It's like anytime you leave your unit, you're supposed to get an award also. So I got like an Army Achievement Medal for my first unit deployment and my just being and transferring on my first unit. But yeah, my second time around, I got an ARCOM for that. But the whole system is just fucked up, and it pisses a lot of vets off because it's just an automatic thing, and it doesn't matter what you do really. I mean, it matters what you do. If you do something valorous, you are going to get something more. But it's fucked up because I, who went out on patrol every day, is getting the same award as someone who sat inside the wire just in the talk all day. Now, I personally don't think anyone should get an award just for going over there. Guys in World War II, you go through Iwo Jima, Okinawa, all you come back with is like, okay, you have a campaign ribbon or something like that. Mm-hmm. Now it's like I put on my Class A uniform and everything like that, and I'm looking like a South American dictator and everything with all my ribbons and awards and everything like that. So that is kind of fucked up because in a way it almost seems like you're implying that those guys did it the last, which is obviously not true. But even so, even like guys that I've known guys who have gotten into combat and everything like that, and they still come out with just an ARCOM, whereas anyone who's E7 or above, they automatically get a Bronze Star, which is completely fucked up. They can you can have an E7 or a first lieutenant or something who sat on their ass in a talk or doing just kind of like coordinating like the base defense, and which really, I'm not saying they don't work, but they're never putting their ass on the line. I'm not saying I did either. I'm not saying I deserve anything, but I'm just saying I know guys who did do this, and you're saying that this guy who did nothing just because of his rank deserves more than this private or whatever who's been working his butt off and putting his ass on the line. You're giving him something more. And I've heard the argument made, well, when you're higher up, whatever, when you're E7, you're a lieutenant, captain, whatever, you have more responsibility. You're responsible for all this. Which, okay, yeah, that's true. You have more in your scope of focus. But are you telling me a private who goes out every single day, sweats his ass off, watching his buddy's sector, well, not his sector, he's paying attention to his own sector, but watching his buddy's back and everything like that, gets into contact and everything like that. Maybe he loses friends and everything like that. He's putting himself online, and he's working physically harder. Maybe his job is not as mentally tough as not when I say mentally tough, I mean intelligently engaging. I guess maybe his job doesn't entail as much critical thinking, but you're telling me that he's not working as hard as this person that's sitting on their butt all day? He's probably working harder. He's putting his ass on the line. And still, this E7, this lieutenant, is getting more than this private. That is just fucked up, to the ultimate level. I think I mentioned in the earlier tape that the guy from our troop that got blown up and killed. I'd worked with him closely on a number of occasions. I like the guy and everything. I never hung out with him outside of work, but he was a really funny guy, awesome person, and he got blown up, killed. His wife and kid are never going to see him, and he gets a Bronze Star for that. The same award as this fucker who's sitting in a talk doing nothing. He gives his life, and according to the Army, gets the same award. It is the biggest fucking injustice in the world.
Kind of like insufficiently awarding people for what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not even. I would say. I don't want to say insignificant, which would imply that everyone deserve, some people deserve more. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying people deserve less. You go ahead, give that private in ARCOM, but don't give that first lieutenant who's in the talk any award. Don't give him shit. You don't need it. Who cares? There's this thing where it's now the Army is whatever. You want to get promoted, you need awards and everything like that. We'll change that system and everything like that. You don't have to give away all these awards. It's, I think it does an injustice to soldiers in the past who didn't get awards like they do now, and it definitely does an injustice to lower-ranking soldiers who do more and risk more, that they get awarded something less than someone who possibly had a cake job their entire deployment.
Do you think that can affect their performance, or their performance of their duty, or do you think that doesn't really come in?
No, I don't think it comes in because you're not out. You're not when you're on a patrol. You're not thinking, "Oh, I want an award. I want an award." Some guys. I'm sure. Do want to get some kind of award or recognition. I never really gave a shit that much about that, but except for when it came to the idea of promotion points. Since it is part of the game, you do need promotion points. It should be part of it, but you do. So I just wanted those promotion points. But overall, even if you do want an award, it's not I would say for probably 99% of people, it's not a constant thing where you are thinking about it and it's motivating you or not. You're there to do your job. That's what you care about. Whether you do your job and you are fulfilling your obligation to the guys around you and your unit.
Okay. So you finished your deployment. Where did you go?
Finished the deployment. Went back home to the States. Same thing kind of with my first unit around. You get back, it's the beginning of December. You're waiting for everyone else to get back. You're finally going to take your unit's post-deployment block leave during Christmas time when you normally take block leave. But we had a few weeks ago. We're waiting for people to get back. Pretty much, we're going into work at 9 o'clock. They're telling us to go home at 9:30 and everything like that.
And where are you at this point?
We're back in Colorado, Fort Carson.
Okay.
So we're still waiting for guys to get back. There's nothing to do. There's absolutely nothing to do. And the rear detachment guys who didn't deploy, they can stay at whatever details or CQ staff duty that's going on, any kind of maintenance. They just leave that to those guys. The guys who just got back, they're not gonna make you do anything or anything like that. So me and my buddies every day, coming back from deployment, especially the second time around, it was just awesome because I mean you have all this money and everything like that, and nothing but free time, and sometimes some guys completely blow it all, but I mean mainly it's just the fact that I mean me and my buddies, we'd get off at work at 9:30, we'd immediately go to the shop at the little convenience stores on post or whatever, and they sell alcohol there, and we just get like 3 cases of beer and everything, and we just sit in our barracks rooms all day playing like Call of Duty until like 5 o'clock and drinking the whole time until we got kind of bored, and then we'd order pizza, and then we start playing drinking games and everything like that. Then we'd go back to playing Call of Duty. We just end all this at 2 o'clock in the morning, get up, go into work, repeat the same process again. It was so fun, and we drank so much, but yeah, it was so chill, and yeah, no worries, and yeah.
How much time did you have left in the military when you got back from your second deployment?
About a year. My ETS date was January 26, 2014. We got back in December of 2012. But I had saved up enough leave that I was going to be able to start my terminal leave pretty much just like the last like 2 months or so, 2.5 months. I had enough leave saved off that I could just leave the Army pretty much early, and for the last 2.5 months of my time in, and I was home and everything like that, and I was just using my leave days up. So yeah, about a year left, and so I quickly got into the I'm checked out kind of mindset. I mean, I still did my job and everything like that. I continued to train the new batch of privates that came in afterwards, and the privates from the past deployment who are now turning specialists, and that's always a kind of a nice little kind of feeling of accomplishment, seeing how far they've progressed and everything, and especially considering like I mean, I'm sure my NCOs would disagree, but considering that I would say I spent probably like me and some of the other specialists, we probably spent 75% more time with these guys teaching them stuff than like you would actually see any of our NCOs do. They did teach them, but kind of like some of the, I mean, it was really kind of like me and a few other specialists that really hammered it into these guys, and most of the time, like it would kind of work where our NCOs they would pretty much just spend most of their day inside the office and everything like that, the mortar office, and they would tell us to go out and do something, and they'd tell us specialists, and we'd go out and we would make sure we'd make sure the privates did it, and we would help them along the way, teach them things about like working with like the Humvees and everything like that. And then of course there'd be other times where the NCOs would ask us to lead classes, and they would teach classes too and everything like that. And whether we're leading the class or the NCOs leading the class, we're there teaching them the whole time also. Where like the NCO might run through like taking apart and pulling together like a 240. As soon as they're done, where we split off behind the weapons, and then like it'll be like me on one weapon supervising a bunch of privates and everything. I don't need the training. They know I can do it. So they tell me to make sure that they do it. And yeah, you kind of slowly teach these guys how to be soldiers. And it's really kind of a good accomplishment, see how far they go and everything like that. Did you spend the entirety of your 12 months training this new batch of guys then? Or did you have other duties as well? Well, I mean, if you go back, I mean, the privates didn't get there until I don't know, maybe like, once again, like May, June, July, kind of like when this first batch of privates got in. Maybe a little bit later, actually. Maybe it was like, maybe it was like June, July-ish. We got these new privates in. But at this point in time, like I said, one part, I was checked out, and so they're not gonna, like, the NCOs didn't ask too much of me when it came to to these new batch of privates. Mainly, I worked with both, but at this point in time, I'm not like these. The privates from the first deployment, they're specialists now. Now it's their job to take care of these new privates. And since so anytime a job come down, they're not gonna ask me. They're gonna they're still gonna ask me, but they're at the same time they're gonna ask these other privates or these new specialists to take care of these privates because they're gonna have to be the next round of leaders and everything like that. And it's their job to teach these guys up. So I'd be kind of like I'd pretty much at this time I'm 3 levels up the hierarchy of privates, new specialists. I'm getting out. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
So yeah. So I'm kind of just at the point where I'm kind of senior than all these guys, so I'm kind of just more supervising them. Though it's hard to supervise and not give input and everything like that. But yeah, I majorly try to take a step back and anytime my old privates, new specialists would kind of come up to me, a lot of times I just tell them, it's your job to figure it out and everything like that.
Right. Does anything particularly stick out to you during this time? Or is it kind of waiting till that clock runs out?
Well, it's mainly waiting till the clock runs out and you're going through, you have to go through all the bunch of classes or whatever they have to do when you're exiting.
Right. Describe those.
I don't remember. We had to go through some finance class and like teaching us to write resumes, and you have to go around like make sure you have all these different paperwork like stamped off of from finance. You have to make sure you turn in all your gear, which is the biggest pain in the ass of all because like they want it like looking better than you actually got it, and that's not an exaggeration at all. You have to go, I don't know, there's just so many different, it takes like 3 months to get it all done and stuff.
Do they try to give you some guidance as to how civilian life is going to be different than what you're used to in the military? Since the fact that you had been on 2 deployments, was there an effort to try to help you decompress and to get you back into civilian life as smoothly as possible? Or is that kind of they let you do that on your own?
Well, I mean, when you first go back to deployment, they did give us like a couple like classes on that or something like that about how things are going to be different, and then when you are exiting our military again, they kind of go through kind of like the same kind of classes where it's like things are different and everything like that. I mean, people are like you go to college, these little 19-year-olds are going to frustrate the hell out of you, and people aren't going to be disciplined, and I mean they tell you all this stuff, but I mean I don't know how well it works, and I mean I don't know how well they can prepare anyone for that. It's just like I think individual level, and I mean some guys handle it more than others, and some some people are just charismatic and just jump back into civilian life. And then others are have a hard time kind of reconnecting. I mean, there's just such like a divide between the civilian mindset and the military mindset of kind of just priorities, personal responsibility, kind of civilians, of course, are going to complain about things that a soldier is going to find trivial, and you don't have the connection between you and civilians that like you had at your unit and stuff. And some people handle it better than others, and of course, some people have other demons that they might have held on to from their deployments or whatever, and they can't reintegrate as well, and I don't know, and also the Army just messes up your life in a lot of different ways and everything like that. And then you're starting completely over with your life. You get out, and depending on how long you spent in, I spent 6 years in, so I go to college, and like I remember like being in a Spanish class and saying like our birth, what years we're born in Spanish and everything like that, and like was born in '88. The closest person to my age was like 1994 and everything. So I mean, there's this big kind of just divide, and these kids are just getting out of high school, and you've been on 2 combat deployments, and of course you stay in longer, it's even worse. I don't know. Depends on the person, really. Like I said, my squad leader for my second deployment, I don't know exactly what happened. Like when I was transferring out of the unit, I thought he was staying in. He was gonna be PCSing, moving to Hawaii and everything like that. But I found out that shortly after I got out, apparently he did not PCS, and for some reason he got out of the Army. I thought he re-enlisted or whatever, but I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe I don't know if he got in trouble and they forced him out. I don't think he did. Or maybe, I don't know if there's some kind of program that let him opt out, but he got out, and for some reason he killed himself. So I mean, I don't know if that was Army related or not.
Excuse me 1 second. Alrighty, so before we paused here, you were talking about, dealing with different people that you've known dealing with, being out of the military and kind of decompressing, readjusting into civilian life. I wanted to pull it back just a little bit and just talk about when you got out of the service, what did you have an idea where you wanted to go, what you wanted to do? Did you have a plan?
They require you to have a plan before you get out.
Okay.
You have to show them that you have employment and like some kind of housing set up before you get out or something like that. I don't know what happens if you don't show them that. I mean, they can't just keep you in forever, but that's part of it. You had to do that, and before I got out, I started applying around. I know I wanted to go back. I wanted to go to school, so I started applying around. I applied to Western. I could provide, and I applied to Grand Valley.
What did you want to study?
Well, I wanted to study history, and I originally went in as a social studies major, with the whole teaching and other major thing, whatever. But I quickly decided that I wanted to go beyond just high school, or whatever. I wanted to eventually go on and to grad school, get a PhD, and become like a history professor. So I quickly switched over to actually just straightforward history major.
And so you did choose Grand Valley, just to make that clear.
Yes, I did
Okay.
choose Grand Valley.
Alrighty.
I didn't think my grades were okay in high school. I think I had a 3.4 or 3.3 GPA. I didn't think I could have gone into Michigan. Though now that I've talked to some veterans, it sounds like I probably could have, because it sounds like as long as you have like that GI Bill, like guaranteed paycheck for the school, they'll let you in with like they'll lower their standards somewhat for you. And I've heard of people getting to Michigan with lower GPAs than mine, but I could be wrong. But yes, I chose Grand Valley. Like I said at the time, I thought I was gonna possibly go into be a high school history teacher, and I remember going through school earlier on, and I know a number of my teachers, they went to Grand Valley, so I'm like, it's only about an hour away from my hometown. I spent all this time away. Teachers went there. Seemed like a good fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that you would like to mention before we end this interview here? How would you say that being in the military and your deployment affected your life overall?
I don't know if I can. I don't know if there's anything else to add with from my military experience at this point. But I mean, overall, how it impacted my life. I guess I would say, I definitely would not be as successful as I am now. Like I said, in high school, I I wasn't the worst kid. I wasn't the best kid. I was kind of right in the middle of my class, 3.3 GPA, so it's like a B plus average. So, but I mean, my parents rode my ass the whole time. I probably shouldn't have even gotten that GPA and stuff like that. But now that I've been at Grand Valley, I've done very, very well. I think my GPA is like at 3.9 right now, and I hold that to the military. It's it's given me the discipline to do work. I mean, it's still a struggle to get myself to do some like work instead of playing video games sometimes, but I think that's, it's helped me somewhat there, and also, it's given me this kind of utter other fear and paranoia of failing, and also this overall level that I recognize what my I can recognize how do I say this? I know what I'm capable of, so I strive. The Army's given me the ability to strive to that level of what I know I'm able to do. I'm not saying that I'm a complete perfectionist, or whatever, but I know I can be right up there and everything like that. Mm-hmm. So when I don't, when I fall short of that, I get on myself and everything like that, and that's thanks to my Army training. You're expected to perform at this high level, and if you're not there, your leaders get on your ass about it. Also, it's just being in the military, and I think I've also always kind of an inquisitive mindset, and having worked with people from every different kind of background, being over in Afghanistan and kind of late in the war when people were kind of asking questions about its validity and everything like that, or throughout the Army, getting orders that I didn't understand, and working with leaders that are giving me jobs and telling me to go tell these privates to do these jobs. At the time, it seems like they're unfair or they don't make sense, and that kind of helped me get into this mindset where I'm able to step back and kind of look at the whole picture and try and weigh different sides of the argument, and try and put myself in the mindset of leaders, put my mindset in the privates and everything like that. And so I think that's helped me, especially in being a historian, where you have to kind of put yourself in different positions and weigh different motives and stuff like that. And also the Army just gives you, it teaches you to think in a different way. Whereas, a lot of times, just working with, privates that are fresh out of high school and whatever, there's just kind of this thing where if the answer is just not there, civilians tend to not know exactly where to look, or it's you look one other place, whatever, then you kind of just give up. An example, we were tasked with doing some layout, we get all of our stuff out of the connex that we're at, and we get done, we put it back in. The privates go to shut the door and everything like that. The door doesn't latch or whatever, and they just keep on going back and forth with the lever or whatever, and it never occurs to them to look around and how to troubleshoot the situation and everything like that. Where they're specialist grades, their door's broken, and I just had to go up there, and instead of just trying to force it and everything, you just have to take a step back, and the Army teaches you to take a step back, look around at all the different kind of parts of that kind of situation where you're in to diagnose the problem. And just look up, and the top of the way it latches, they have these hooks that go in and kind of secure themselves. And I'm well, the hooks aren't lined up or something like that. It's just civilians, in my experience, they don't know how to take that step back and look at things anytime you're in the military, you should know that chances are when you're on patrol, your radio is gonna go down for some God knows reason, because that's how radios work. And initially, like, I mean, when you first get in, it's like the radio doesn't work. Okay, is it plugged in? It's plugged in. Okay. Is it on the right channel? Okay, it's on the right channel. Why isn't it working? I mean, and you just stop right there. Whereas when you get more experience, you learn to take a step back. Okay, it's plugged in. It's on the right channel. Okay, is the dagger working? Which gives you like, or actually no, not the dagger. Is the time right in it? Because the way encryption, like the radios work, when you put in the encryption or whatever, all the radios are set to like they're synchronized with a different time. And the way the encryption work is, the radios are bouncing around different frequencies all at the same time. So you put a time into all the radios, and everyone's radios are in sync. So then when your radio's frequency bounces up to this different frequency, it's going to be on the same frequency as someone else's radio who's bouncing up at the same time. Whereas if you're not don't have that encryption, and you're not on the right time, you're not going to be bouncing around at the same frequencies at the same time. And also at the same time, it's like, okay, you take your step back. Is the time correctly inputted? Is the encryption fill? Is that inputted? Perhaps the cable's frayed that the rack is in. The connection little where the actual radios go in and connect. Perhaps the little metal things that inserts into the back of the radio mount. Maybe one of those is busted. Maybe the antenna is not working. And I mean, there's just so many different things that, as you've been in for a while, you're able to take a step back and you realize and look at the situation and kind of look at each individual part of the process. Whereas a lot of the time, I think civilians are just kind of like one and done. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, and they go, instead of actually trying to figure it out, they just go immediately and ask for help. So that's helped me kind of, like in the civilian world, in academia, being able to step back and look at a problem from different angles and everything like that. And as a historian, kind of look at, once again, being able to look at different points of view and see what's wrong and why it's wrong. Yeah.
All right. Well, Matt, thanks for coming in and sharing your story with us.